Welcome to the third instalment of this mini lecture series on using marketing communications theory to help plan our messages. So as part of the process of planning and crafting our messages, we need to really think about the creative technique that we will be employing to help our message to be delivered and received. Now, I like to think of the creative technique as like the wrapper that goes around something that makes it attractive. So if you're thinking about a sort of a sweet or perhaps a chocolate bar, you don't know what's inside, but it's the wrapper that makes you want to open it, the wrapper that catches your eye, grabs your attention and makes you want to open it up and find out and engage with what's inside. So the little image I've just put on this particular screen, just to demonstrate that although something might be really attractive, might be eye-catching and make us want to engage, the actual message itself might be something quite ordinary or bland or plain, or perhaps something that you wouldn't normally engage with. But the wrapper, the creative technique, can actually stimulate that response and help us to engage with things that we might ordinarily not engage with. So there are many different creative techniques that advertisers and brands can employ in helping to provide an interesting vehicle so that their message is received, so it catches the attention, holds the attention, and maintains, helps the audience to remember the message as well. So one of those techniques is storytelling. So storytelling is an art in itself, and again, with looking at English literature or creative studies, there are many different storytelling techniques, but just a couple of them that I've rounded up here and that I have used in the workshop examples today are storytelling techniques such as problem resolution arc. So advertisers will quite often introduce a scenario where there is a problem. It could be somebody in need of something, somebody suffering, and then there's an arc as different elements come into the story, different characters or potential resolutions, and eventually the story or the character will have their need or their problem resolved, and we'll have that kind of arc from problem to sort of peak to resolution. Another technique of storytelling could be something that's quite unusual or juxtaposed, so we can have very unusual elements or things that we create a sort of a surprise. A very common storytelling element that's used quite often now with big brands is sentimental sort of stories that really hit us in the emotion, they really hit us in the feels. So these are the sort of stories you'll quite often see, or campaigns by John Lewis around Christmas time, or the Sainsbury's World War I campaign, which is part of the workshop challenge today. So we're looking at different ways of engaging our audience and stimulating an emotional response so that they actually maintain their attention, and kind of by doing so, the message is delivered. We can also look at using sort of the sense of justice, right and wrong, heroes and villains, and humour. So there's lots of different ways we can create stories or use storytelling to help as a wrapper to deliver our message so that the audience, it grabs their attention, so that the audience maintains their attention, and so the message is remembered. Another creative technique that brands often employ is novelty. So if a brand has a creative team or uses a creative agency and they come up with something completely new, I believe I showed an example when we did owned media, and we looked at the Evian dancing babies. It was a completely new concept. It was quite unusual, quite novel, and they managed to get quite a lot, over a decade, I think 2 decades of campaigns from that particular, that novel idea that became synonymous with their brand. And again, these new ideas can sometimes be facilitated by new technology. So it could be computer generated imagery, it could be augmented reality or virtual reality, or just new consumer trends such as people having smartphones can enable or new types of technology which facilitate new ideas and new novel concepts that brands, if they can be the first to adopt it and do it well, can get a lot of attention and leverage and mileage and impact from doing that. One great example, which isn't heavily technology based, kind of, is T-Mobile. They created a fantastic flash mob back when flash mobs were a new thing in Liverpool Station, and the choreography is quite fantastic because it was novel. It was very, very viral. People were very amused, very touched by the energy and the entertainment factor, and it spurred many copycats and tributes and people doing flash mobs for years and years and years now, to the point where they don't have the same impact. But it's definitely worth watching this little video on YouTube and re-engaging with how successful a campaign can be when they grab something and they execute it really well. They grab something original, execute it really well. They get a lot of PR, a lot of viral, a lot of the video can become viral, and a lot of people give it their attention and talk about it and share it, etc. Another creative technique is something we call the slice of life. So this is a technique, it's kind of like storytelling, where we present a scenario. So again, we give the audience context, we present a scenario. It can quite often have characters, actors in a certain situation. Sometimes it's around a challenge that they have, a pain point or a problem. And creating this situation offers credibility. It allows people to empathize and to relate and to understand, yes, I've had a problem like that, or I can understand the pain or the challenge. And then when the information is presented and the solution is presented, it helps people to kind of understand, to decode, to process that message. So this slice of life, putting the solution, the product or the service into context with how people use it and the problems that it solves, is another effective storytelling technique that we can use as a sort of a creative measure for the effectiveness of our message. So I'm not going to go into, in this particular mini lecture, lots of examples of creative campaigns, because that is part of your workshop task today. So there's a Word document on Moodle, and there is a number of campaigns that I want you to look at, and using the terminology and the understanding that you have gained from these lectures, which I've kind of summarized on the worksheet, I want you to be able to watch, discuss and analyze the different techniques, tasks, engagement types that the advert is using to craft its message and to communicate effectively. The plan is that these would, undertaking this process, will provide you with inspiration and open your mind up to what is possible, so you can apply some of these creative approaches and techniques to crafting your message for your positive impact project. Okay, thank you for your attention, and I'll see you in the next video.